Many years back when these old oaks were young, not long after the Northmen had come, a low and evil deed was done in the dark of the New Forest, in the dark of the New Forest.
When I first heard this haunting a cappella track titled English Curse, I was sure it was a cover of an ancient English folk song, that the singer resurrected it from the distant, dusty halls of history. So you can imagine my surprise when I found out the song was an invention of a contemporary punk rocker named Frank Turner. On a whim, I decided to try and contact Frank personally, ask him about it. I was curious as to why a guy who made a living belting out the hard-edged beats and lyrics associated with punk rock would dig so deep into the past for material. Even copy the old style of England's folk tradition for the song's musical composition. I didn't really expect him to get back to me, being the rising star that he is, but much to my delight and my surprise, Frank wrote back, and right away, I might add, and this is what he had to say about the song. What a guy, I thought. Taking time out of his own busy schedule to answer my email. He didn't know who I was from Adam. So I was already committed to doing this project. It had gotten more compelling with that twist that the song was actually written by a punk rocker named Frank Turner. So I'm going to attempt to give you a short primer to explain the historical grounds covered in the English Curse, with the aid of Frank Turner's contemporary song made to sound like traditional folk song. The New Forest was created around 1079 by Royal Order of William I, also known as William the Conqueror, also known as William the Bastard. The illegitimate, albeit only son of Robert I, Duke of Normandy, William's scurrilous claim to the English throne consisted of a tenuous blood claim through his great-aunt Emma. Emma was married to Ethelred, and mother of the dead king from whom William insists left the throne to him. But there is no real proof of this. It's a kind of he said, she said kind of thing. So William comes over from Normandy, dukes it out with King Harold, who dies at the Battle of Hastings, thus making it that much easier for William to move into the king's digs. One of William's first orders of business after invading England was to evict men, women, and children living in at least 20 settlements in the forest. He did this in order to turn it into his own personal hunting ground, most especially for hunting deer. What a guy, I thought. So the legend goes that one of the evicted subjects, John the blacksmith, who was an honest old man that raised up his children in the forest, put a curse on William.
But if you steal the land of an Englishman, then you shall know this curse. Your firstborn son's warm blood will run upon the English earth.
Flash forward. After much bloodshed and reorganization of England under William I, he dies. Leaving the crown to his son William, also known as William Rufus, also known as Rufus Arrett. Some say the nickname had to do with his coloring. Others, it was due to his propensity for anger. Historically speaking, Rufus gets a bad rap. He's often depicted as a self-serving and deceitful, a money-grubbing, pocket-lining, unjust ruler.
Eventually, they contribute handsomely to my tax returns.
A rogue, a traitor, a thief, and a scoundrel.
Curse or no, Rufus, out hunting one day with a group of men, was fatally struck by the arrow of Lord Tyrrell. Struck dead in the New Forest out hunting for the very deer his father had loved to hunt so much, making the blacksmith's curse come true. Just a side note, Rufus was left to bleed to death by his hunting buddies, who fled the forest to cover their asses, basically.
Run, and let us save our asses.
To this day, no one can say for certain whether Tyrrell meant to kill Rufus or whether it was an accident. If you ask me, though, it says a lot about the character of a person when his own buddies left him for dead. What a guy, I thought.
I actually learned a lot in the process of gathering information for this project, and aside from the obvious historical facts, there's a few incidental points I learned. 1. Frank Turner has a penchant for weaving historical and literary references into his lyrics. In Love, Ire, and Song, he draws upon key events of the Russian Revolution. In I Am Disappeared, it's Hemingway and Patty Hearst. And let us not forget T.S. Eliot's Prufrock, and another of his songs, I Knew Prufrock Before He Got Famous. And point number 2, I never realized how smart punk rock musicians are. It's quite clear that Frank Turner is pretty smart in the history department. Another case in point, Bad Religion's Greg Gaffin has a master's degree in geology, and he went on to earn a PhD in zoology from Cornell University. And Milo Ackerman of the Los Angeles punk band The Descendants earned his PhD in biochemistry from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That's pretty darn smart. John F. Kennedy once said, "History is a relentless master. It has no present, only the past rushing into the future." The past rushing into the future, like the great estuaries of England. History's current cannot be stopped, for it flows like the Thames into the infinite ocean of time. Frank Turner, an Englishman from the 21st century, recognizing his place in time, taps at his shoulder and winks at him with his English curse.
Many years back when these old oaks were young, not long after the Northmen had come, a low and evil deed was done in the dark of the New Forest. In the dark of the New Forest. From the shores of Normandy King William came to Albion fair King Harold to slay. With greed in his heart and a scurrilous claim, he took the land for his own. He took the land for his own. Now John was a blacksmith, an honest old man. He raised up his children and he worked with his hands, and his family's forged in a patch of land. In the dark of the New Forest, in the dark of the New Forest. King William rode out after his victory to ravage the land and his hunger to feed. For hunting grounds in the Wessex trees, he took the land for his own. He took the land for his own. But if you steal the land of an Englishman, then you shall know this curse. Your firstborn son's warm blood will run upon the English earth. Now King William's son was called Rufus the Red. He took up the crown when his father was dead, and he roamed the hunting grounds in his stead, in the dark of the New Forest, in the dark of the New Forest. But John's curse it called out, and Lord Tyrrell fired low. His arrow struck Rufus with a sickening blow, and he fell from his horse to the ground below, and the land took him for its own. The land took him for its own. So if you steal the land of an Englishman, then you shall know this curse. Your firstborn son's warm blood will run upon the English earth. Many years back when these old oaks were young, not long after the Northmen had come, a low and evil deed was done in the dark of the New Forest. In the dark of the New Forest.